Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 8 of Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from chapter 12. Grandad said Flora couldn't possibly be a patch on me. He said Alice had only known Flora 5 minutes, and she'd known me all her life. He said Alice and I were closer than sisters, and even if we weren't together, we were always going to be there for each other. Best friends for always. He said that he and Grandma had always been best friends, and they'd stayed that way even when he had a job out in Saudi, which meant they were parted for months at a time. He said all this, and I listened. I still worried. I went on and on worrying. I sent Alice long emails every day. I hated having to do this via Flora. What a stupid name. I started calling her Margarine Girl in my head. I was so sick of hearing about her brilliance at bogging ballet and her beautiful bedroom and her lovely cool clothes. They sounded rubbish to me. Silly tops showing her tummy, and tight little skirts and shoes with real heels. I like to keep my tummy well hidden, and I hate tight skirts because you can't run, and heels are stupid because they catch on things and make you walk all wobbly with your bum sticking out. I think I maybe said some of this in one of my emails. Alice's mum wouldn't let her wear crop tops and tight skirts and shoes with heels because she said Alice was still a little girl, so why dress like she was going to a nightclub? Alice had always agreed with me that these clothes were stupid anyway, but now she emailed back, "You are so hopeless, Gemma." She then wrote heaps about Flora's new kitten heels and how they were the exact same shoe size, so Flora let her borrow them because she's so kind. I had Flora sussed out. She wasn't kind at all. She was just trying to take my best friend away from me. I didn't have a clue what kitten heels were anyway. It was a silly name. Kittens pad about on little fluffy paws. They don't wear heels. I asked Mum and she described them very carefully. "Why, Gemma, you don't want a pair of kitten heels, do you? You're much too young for any kind of heels, but it would be good for you to have a change from those awful old trainers," Mum said eagerly. "Mum, I don't want kitten heels," I paused. "I do want a big sparkly suit, though." Mum sighed. "Not again, Gemma. I'm not having my daughter going around in drag. You sometimes wear trouser suits to work, Mum. Does that mean you wear drag?" "No, it doesn't, Miss Cheeky Face," said Mum. She tweaked my hair, sighing. "It's sticking straight up, even worse than usual, Gemma. What have you been doing to it?" I'd been raking my hands through it while I read Alice's latest email, but I wasn't going to tell Mum that. I let her brush my hair into submission. "There. It can look quite nice if you just take a bit of care with it. It could look really stunning if you grew it." "I was thinking I'd actually like it a bit shorter, Mum," I said. Fat Larry had a very short haircut. Ideally, I wanted a shaved head, skinhead special, but I knew Mum would go bananas at the very idea. I was going to have serious problems with my Fat Larry impersonation, but I couldn't give up. I knew I would be brilliant as Fat Larry. Well, so long as I could cook a bit too. I smiled at Mum, fluttering my eyelids winsomely. "Have you got something in your eyes, Gemma?" No, they're fine, Mum. I'm sorry, I'm not more of a girly type girl, like Alice. I wish you could kind of help me do girly stuff." Mum blinked back at me. "Oh, Gemma, darling, of course I'll help you. I could show you exactly how to do your hair. Maybe we could manicure your nails a little. They're always so grimy. And you could go back to your ballet class and—" "Not ballet, Mum. But could I learn to cook? I'd really, really love to do some cookery. Will you show me how to do that sort of stuff? Please." "Well, I don't think we'll tackle pancakes just yet," said Mum. "But I'd love to show you how to cook. Come on, you can help me make supper. You're having cauliflower cheese." "Oh, yuck, Mum, I hate cauliflower cheese. Can't we have a spag bowl?" "Gemma, you really are the limit. You're the only one in our family who can still stomach the very idea of spaghetti bolognese, and yet you were the one who vomited it all over everywhere." Mum shuddered at the memory. "We're having cauliflower cheese, like it or lump it." That was half the reason I disliked it, all those soggy, smelly, lumpy bits of cauliflower swimming around in cheese sauce. I was sure it didn't figure in Fat Larry's recipe book, but at least it was a kind of cookery and I needed the practice. Mum set me grafting the cheese while she washed and cut up the cauliflower. I had to grate a lot of cheese. I had a quick nibble at the big wedge in my hand whenever I thought Mum wasn't looking. She caught me chewing. She gave me this long lecture. "Mum, it's a well-known fact all good chefs taste their own food. It's part of the creative culinary process," I said grandly, daring one last weeny bite. "Stop it. I don't want your teeth marks all over the cheese, you mucky little girl. And chefs taste their food after they've cooked it, not when it's still raw ingredients. Now, get on with the grating. I shall want to start the sauce in a second." I grated and grated and grated. I tried to build up a rhythm. Then I started making up my own rap tune, banging the grater in time. This is the way I grate the cheese. This is the way I make mum please. This is the way I shoot the breeze. This is the way I pay my fees. This is the way I knock my knees. This is the way I buzz the bees. This is the way I rattle my keys. This is the way I scratch my fleas. This is the way I whittle my wheeze. Gemma, said Mum. She made me jump. I grated my thumb instead of the cheese. It bled rapidly over my pile of cheese gratings, dyeing it an interesting shade of scarlet. Mum had to throw my bloody cheese away and start all over again with a fresh pound of cheddar. I watched, waggling my sticking plastered sore thumb. What can I do, Mum, if you won't let me carry on grating? You can clear off, Gemma, please. You can lay the table if you truly want to be helpful. That's not cookery. Oh, please, Mum, let me do something. Go on, you're always nagging at me to take an interest in girly stuff. And now I am. You're giving me no encouragement whatsoever. Mum sighed, but when she'd finished her grating, she showed me how to make cheese sauce. I tried to learn it by heart. It was still in rap mode. Melt the butter. My mum did utter. Stir in the flour, hour by hour. Pour on the milk. Stir smooth as silk. In with the cheese. That's the way to please. I chanted, dancing around the kitchen floor. It was the all-singing, all-dancing cook. Maybe I'd get my own TV show and be just as popular as Fat Larry. I'd be jolly joking Gemma. Top of the telly ratings, rapping her recipes, tapping her cookery tips. I whirled around, flinging my arms wide as I acknowledged rapturous applause from the studio audience. My gesture was a little too flamboyant. I knocked Mum's arm and the saucepan went flying. I ended up in a deep disgrace again. I didn't really fancy my cauliflower cheese when we started on it. Quite a long while later. I take it our Gem's pants at cookery, Dad murmured to Mum as he set off for work. The shouting from the kitchen had echoed all over the house. Mum sniffed. It's not funny. She's not allowed in my kitchen while I'm cooking ever again. Nice one, Gem, said Callum, grinning at me. I didn't have the heart to grin back. I was starting to agree with Mum. I wasn't funny at all. How was I ever going to practice my cookery if she wasn't even going to let me in the kitchen? I decided I'd have to beg Grandad to let me practice round at his place. I suffered through school the next day. Biscuits was unbearable, going on about his Fat Larry sparkly suit. His mum had gone up to London looking for exactly the right sort of sparkly material. Fat Larry specialised in traffic light colours and had a red suit, a yellow suit and an emerald green. I'm going for emerald, Biscuits boasted. Oh, like you think you'll make me green with envy, I said. OK, I'll go for the red Fat Larry suit, and you'll be red with rage. Look, stop being daft. You know I'm going to be Fat Larry. I look like him. I'll look like him too. But you don't have a sparkly suit. I will have. My mum's going to make one. Well, she'll have to get a move on. Didn't you listen? We're presenting the projects the week after next, Mrs. Watson said, and there's a prize for the best one. That's ages away, I said airily, but I started to panic inside. I'd have to watch Fat Larry videos every day and try very hard with my cooking. I tore out of school to meet Grandad. Hello, Ice Gem. What are you in such a hurry for? Said Grandad, taking my hand. I want to watch Fat Larry and do some serious cooking before Mum comes to pick me up at your house, Grandad, I said. Oh, help, said Grandad. Fat Larry is watching is fine, but I'm not so sure about the serious cookery bit. Your dad phoned me today. I don't want you grating away any more fingers, OK? He gently squeezed my plastered thumb. I've got to practice somehow, Grandad. Do you think I could come round at the weekend and we could learn to cook together then? I'm busy at the weekend, sweetheart, said Grandad, with a strange smile on his face. Grandad, please. No, can't, darling. I've got a special job. Oh, bum, I said. I wish you didn't have your bogging job. Language. It's quite a good job, sweetheart, particularly this weekend special. Some old lady's hurt her leg on a visit to her daughter, and she needs to be collected and taken down to her other daughter in London. She won't fly and she can't take the train because her leg needs to be propped up. She's decided to do the journey in comfort, so I'm picking her up in the Mercedes. I wondered why Grandad was rambling on about this old lady at such length. Guess where she lives, Gemma, said Grandad, eyes gleaming. Eastern Scotland, about 40 or 50 miles away from Alice's new place. So I thought what we could do is pop you in the car and take you on a little trip too. If we drive up Friday night, then we could spend all Saturday with Alice. Would you like that? Oh, Grandad, I said. I leapt up and threw my arms around his neck, hugging him tight. Chapter 13. I was so excited I felt I was skimming the pavement, tap dancing in thin air. Then Mum stuck her oar in. Your Grandad's gone soft in the head. You can't go all the way to Scotland and back in the weekend. And this old lady won't want you in the car, Gemma. It's just ludicrous. And Karen will object strongly if you turn up on her doorstep. I know she thinks you're a bad influence on Alice, and you are. I felt like Mum had a real oar in her hand and was whacking me over the head with it. I came down to earth. It felt like she was hammering me through the floorboards, down and down and down, until my chin was on the carpet. Dad was dozing on the sofa as always, but then he opened his eyes. He got up. He went over to Mum. "What's all this?" She told him. "Your dad's got no right to start all this. He's got Gemma all worked up. Look at the state of her." "Please, let me go, Mum. Grandad said it would be fine," I sobbed. "Never mind your Grandad. I'm your Mum, and I say you're not going." Dad picked up his cup of coffee. He took a long sip. "I think you should mind your Grandad, Gemma," he said. "I'm your dad, and I say you are going." I stared at Dad. Mum stared at him too. "What on earth are you on about? It's a crazy idea. Your dad's crazy." "No, he's not. He just can't stand Gemma being so miserable because she's missing young Alice. I don't get your objections. Dad knows what he's doing. He's the safest driver you could wish for. He'll make sure he's well rested. The car hire company will create if they find out about Gemma, but if Dad's willing to take that risk, I don't see why we should object. She can tuck herself away in the corner of the Merc, easily enough. She might even prove good company for the old lady. And yes, we all know our Gemma isn't flavour of the month with snotty old Karen, but I doubt she'll have the heart to turn her away if she arrives on the doorstep. Let the kids have one good day together. It can be like an early birthday for them both." Dad took a long gulp of coffee. He was probably dry. He wasn't used to saying so much all in one time. Mum usually said lots and lots, but now she seemed struck dumb. I held my breath. She looked at Dad. She looked at me. She shook her head. "It's a mad idea. I have a horrible feeling it's only going to end in tears." "Look at the kid. She's in tears now," said Dad. "We're going to let her go." Mum sighed. Then she shrugged. "All right. I can't fight you both. Gemma can go." I shot straight up in the air again, so happy I was bouncing up to the ceiling. I sweet-talked Jack into letting me use his computer right that second, even though he was in the middle of searching for information for some boring old school project about our galaxy. I thought momentarily about my school project, but I suddenly didn't care too much. Maybe I'd let Biscuits be Fat Larry after all. Seeing as he was fat, he was getting a sparkly suit, and he could cook. I couldn't understand why I'd been making such a fuss. I was only fussed about one thing now, seeing Alice. "Hello, Flora. Please give the following ultra-important message to Alice as soon as humanly possible. Dear Alice, I don't know if you've got anything planned for Saturday, but if so, unplan it immediately because guess what? Guess what? Guess what? My granddad's driving me up to Scotland on Friday night and he's taking me round to your place on Saturday morning. Isn't that wonderful? I can't wait. But don't tell your mum because she doesn't like me now. Lots of love from your best friend ever, Gemma." I hoped the dozy margarine girl would nip around to Alice's sharpish, but no such luck. I had to wait ages for a reply. I kept plaguing and plaguing Jack, terrified he might absent-mindedly have deleted my message or mixed it up with his school project and sent it off to some far-flung corner of the galaxy. But eventually Alice sent a message back. "Dear Gem, that is great news. I can't wait to see you. Do you know what time you're coming and when you're going? The thing is, I usually go to the shops with Mum in the morning, but don't worry, I'll say I've got a headache or an earache or something, so I get to stay home. Although, if I make too much fuss, Mum might make me go to the doctor's, but don't worry, I'll sort something out. Flora will help. She always has good ideas. Love, Alice." I got a bit bothered by the Flora bit. Why on earth did Alice want to bring her into it? I was the one who had good ideas and bad ideas. I'm famous for it. I had another brilliant idea. Dad had said it would be like an early birthday for both of us, so what we needed was a birthday cake. Then we could blow out our candles together and make our very special best friends forever birthday wish. Then we were safe for another whole year. There was a slight problem, however. I didn't know how to make a birthday cake. I knew a boy who did. "Hello, Biscuits," I said the next day at school. Biscuits blinked back at me nervously. "What's up?" he said. "Nothing's up," I said. "Then why are you grinning at me like that?" "Well, we're mates, aren't we? Gemma, have you gone into a time warp? We were mates once upon a time. Then all the you and Alice business happened and you didn't want to be mates anymore. You wanted us to be deadly enemies. You even wanted to beat me up, which was pretty scary, seeing as I'm a class 1 coward. And now we have this uneasy truce because we've been working on our Fat Larry project. And talking of Fat Larry Biscuits, you know that yummy chocolate cake you make? That would make an excellent birthday cake." Biscuits sucked his teeth. "Yeah," he said thoughtfully. "Biscuits, do you think you could give me the recipe?" "Sure," he said. "I know it off by heart." "Okay, here's what you do." And then he told me. It was like he was talking another language altogether. Hang on, I said, trying to scribble it down. If you've got butter and sugar, how do you cream them? Do you pour cream on top? Biscuits laughed like I was deliberately joking. Then he saw my face. Haven't you ever made any kind of cake, Gemma? Well, not exactly, not a cake sort of cake. When we were very little kids, Alice and I had mixed up bowls of earth and decorated them with buttercups and daisies and called them cakes, but they weren't the edible kind. I had a sudden foreboding that even if I used real ingredients, my cake still might not be entirely edible. Creaming is easy peasy, Biscuits said gently, especially if your mum's got a good food mixer. Mum won't let me loose in her kitchen. I don't think she's got a mixer anyway. She gets my birthday cakes from Marks and Spencer. I'll be making the cake at Grandad's. I don't think he's got a mixer either. Has he got cake tins and a sieve and an icing bag to write a message? No, and no, and no again, I said, sighing. Well, come back to my house after school. You can borrow all my mum's stuff, and I'll show you how to make the cake, said Biscuits. His face was shining with goodwill and generosity. I'd been so horrible to him for weeks. I'd even ambushed him in the toilets and tried to beat him up. I'd probably insulted him. I'd done my best to stop him impersonating his hero. He hadn't been mean back once. Biscuits was a truly big-hearted boy. My own heart seemed to have whittled down to a weeny speck of grit. I could feel it scratching in my chest. You're very kind, Biscuits, I said in a very small voice. Biscuits grinned. Oh, I don't know. It's kind of fun making you feel guilty, he said. I pretended to bop him on the head. He pretended to pull my hair. We shadow-sparred for a minute, elaborating on the theme, miming kickboxing and kung fu, until we were both helpless with laughter. Mrs. Watson came into the classroom and found us collapsed in a heap, feebly poking each other with our little fingers. Are you two fighting? She said uncertainly. This is a deadly duel of finger-prodding, Mrs. Watson, I said, only it's hard to prod Biscuits properly because he's so big and strong and muscly. Quite, said Mrs. Watson. Well, delightful though it is to see you two united in your usual combat, I rather think you're here to learn. Jump up, both of you, and go to your desks. Otherwise I shall start prodding you, and I'll use my ruler. When Grandad came to meet me after school, I asked if I could go home with Biscuits to learn cake making. You can come too, Biscuits said to Grandad. It's very kind of you, lad, but you don't want me tagging along too, said Grandad. Oh, yes, we do, I said. You can learn cake making too, Grandad. Biscuits makes wonderful cakes. I bet Fat Larry himself couldn't make better. Biscuits looks a dead ringer for your Fat Larry pal too, said Grandad. Why on earth isn't he acting the part of this for this school project of yours? There was a little pause. I took a deep breath. Yeah, Grandad, you've got a good point. OK, Biscuits, you be Fat Larry when we do the presentation. Biscuits nibbled at his lip ruminatively. I think we should both be Fat Larry somehow. That would be fairer, he said. He persuaded Grandad to come back to his place too. Well, if you're sure your mum won't mind, said Grandad. And talking of mums, Jem, we'd better phone your mum to let her know where we are. He phoned Mum at work. I could tell she was giving him an earful on the other end of the phone, probably quizzing him about Biscuits and his family. Grandad pressed the phone close to his ear and mumbled, Yes, Liz. No, Liz, several times. Then he mouthed, 3 bags full, Liz, so that I got the giggles. On the way to Biscuits' house, Grandad suggested we wait by the gate, rather than going straight in. That way you can nip in, lad, and check with your mum if it's convenient, said Grandad. He rubbed his ear as if my mum's voice was still quacking away at him. Oh, my mum will be fine, said Biscuits. She likes me bringing friends home. Yeah, but maybe she won't like me, I said. Some mums don't like me one bit. But Mrs. McVitie gave me a great big smile when she opened her front door. This is Gemma, Mum, said Biscuits eagerly. Of course it is, said Mrs. McVitie. I've heard a lot about you, sweetheart. She smiled at Grandad. And you are Gemma's dad? Her Grandad. Well, I never. You don't look old enough to be a Grandad, said Mrs. McVitie. She was just teasing him, but Grandad looked really chuffed. Everyone smiled in the McVitie family. Mr. McVitie smiled when he came home from work at his barber's shop. He ruffled my hair and asked me if I'd just had it cut. No, I'm supposed to be growing it. I don't want to, though. I want it really, really short. I don't suppose you'd give me a skinhead number 1, would you? Mr. McVitie roared with laughter. I don't think your mum would be too thrilled about that, darling. I think you'd better confer with her first. I decided to put the idea on hold for a while. Biscuits' granny smiled as she made us all a cup of tea. She gave Grandad his in a mug that said Hunky Guy. Grandad had a little chuckle about it. He'd been going to take a cookery lesson with me, but he ended up sitting on the sofa with the granny, looking at her photograph album. Both of them hooted with laughter at the things they all wore back in the old days. Biscuit's baby sister, Polly, smiled too, lying back in her baby chair, waving her little clenched fists and kicking her plump pink legs. Biscuits was brilliant with her, parking her baby chair up on the top of the kitchen table beside us so she could see what we were doing. He chatted away to her like she was a real little person, tickling her under her chin and playing this little piggy with her tiny toes. Polly squealed delightedly, blinking her blue eyes at her big brother. I wondered if Callum had ever played with me like that. I was certain Jack wouldn't have gone anywhere near me. Little babies freak him out. I'm not usually very keen on babies either. I politely said Polly was very sweet. I couldn't say that she was very pretty because she was much too pink and piggly and totally bald. I'll take her out of her baby chair and let you hold her if you like, said Biscuits. No fear, I said hurriedly. I'd probably drop her. Mum was always going on about me being so rough and clumsy. I had a little knot in my stomach already in case I made a complete mess of cake making. I did sift my flour a little too vigorously so that it looked like there was a mini snowstorm in the kitchen, but Biscuits had just laughed. His mum laughed too. Biscuits showed me how to sift sensibly. Then he demonstrated the complicated creaming lark. The butter and sugar went into this unpromising gritty ball at first, but it smoothed out eventually and really went creamy. Then Biscuits initiated me into the very best bit about cake making, licking out the bowl. Grandad tried to pay for all the cake ingredients, but Mrs. McVitie wouldn't hear of it. Grandad promised the whole family a free trip out the next time his work Mercedes was available. Only it can't be this weekend. I'm taking a very special little lady on a long, long trip up north, he said, winking at me. You're going to see Alice, said Biscuits. Yep. Won't that be wonderful, I said. Well, I suppose. And so, this cake's for her, said Biscuits. It's for us to share, an early birthday cake. So, when it comes out of the oven, will you show me how to ice it over and do fancy writing on the top? OK. I want quite a lot of writing. Alice and Gemma, best friends forever. Will it fit? Probably. Biscuits seemed to have got a bit fed up with cake making. He filled the icing bag for me to have a practice on greased paper while the cake was baking. Then he turned his back on me and made a great fuss of Polly. He pulled funny faces at her and she chortled appreciatively. I tried to master writing in icing. It wasn't easy. The loopy bits wobbled and the round bits blotched. Biscuits started playing peekaboo with Polly. Every time he went boo, my hand shook and my words went wrong. Oh, bum, I said, and then glanced anxiously at Mrs. McVitie. She was busy washing up and didn't hear. Thank goodness. I can't do it, I wailed. Yes, you can, said Biscuits. Keep practising. I am. Help me, Biscuits. Hold the bag with me and show me again, please. Biscuits sighed, but he came over, put his big hands around mine and squeezed smoothly on the bag. I let him choose the words. He wrote, Gemma is rubbish at icing. OK, I said, struggling to take over. Well, give it me back. I'll have another go. I wrote alone, slowly, wobbling all over the place. Biscuits is a great mate. Biscuit's smile came back. He smiled and smiled and smiled. And that is where we will leave part 8 of Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way very, very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for your support and thanks for listening, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.